used to that rainy weather. I love it.
Oh, I hate it.
You
That's why I left the UK.
but yeah, but it's here. It's once in a while. Although the last week was
Yeah,
pretty bad.
it's been horrible.
I I really wanted to talk with you because of your inspirational moves during the past years that I didn't had the chance so much to speak with you. We are meeting, but not that regularly. So I really wanted to catch up and see what's the inspiration behind all those things. And but first of all, I really want to share the story because every time I think of you, I remember the story of how we met this event. Do you remember on the rooftop?
Yeah, it's a co-working
Yeah,
rooftop.
something
Yeah.
event that were presenting a lot of expats, and Ruby was one of the expats. And she presented herself by telling the story of how she got to Bulgaria, which I will give her the opportunity to share now as well. But I remember hearing her speaking and loving the way she was putting up the stories and the words. So I basically wanted her to write for the website I was working at, and this is what happened. So if you want to read her really interesting stories in egoist.bg, you can do so. But there's a lot more in her, a lot more in depth in her journey. So how long you're here in Bulgaria for now?
It's coming up 10 years very soon,
Wow, that's
which is
great.
it's crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Tell me how everything started and where are you at now?
So
Yeah.
how I came to be here. Well, I'll try and shorten it a little bit, but so I was living in the UK. I was living in Scotland, and it was just a bit miserable. The weather was getting me down. People were like just society groaning, mumbling, grumbling, and I thought I don't want to do this 9 to 5, like day in day out, and just be, have the normal 2 week holiday, be happy for 2 weeks of the year, and then go back to that. So I wanted to. I'd already lived abroad as a student, and I thought that's what I want to do. So this was back in the time when remote working wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find something that would allow me to live somewhere long term. So I needed a job, so I looked into teaching English. So that was one decision, and then I decided to go to Turkey and living in Istanbul. So I went to Istanbul, and I say that I survived Istanbul for, I think it was five months. And near the end of that, I just needed a break. It was so busy. It just wasn't my place. Um, so I needed a break, and I looked at the cheapest flights, and there was one to Sofia, and I have to admit I didn't even know where Sofia was. And so I did a bit of Googling. I was like, that looks fine. It's just for a break. Came here for one weekend, which was over the just after Christmas, so just over the like that bit in between Christmas and New Year. And yeah, came here, loved it, and decided I could do this. I could live here. So had to go back to Turkey. Waited until I got my money, and then I quit my job and got a one-way ticket back to Sofia. And that was, I think I moved around the 15th of January 2014. That's when I arrived
Wow.
in Sofia.
But first you found a job or?
I hadn't even found a job. It was one of those, I'd sent out some emails to schools and the response was positive enough. But obviously they said, come and see us if and
Right.
when you arrive. And I thought, I have to take the chance because I knew I couldn't stay in Istanbul. And it was either go forward or go back. And I didn't want to go back. For me, that wasn't really an option. So I was like, okay, let's try this.
Your education is not that close to teaching English, actually.
No,
What is it?
it was media, so theory and production and film. So, I mean, it's yeah, creative, and that was kind of my passion and writing. was included in that, screenwriting. And I had done some teaching before. I'd taught screenwriting and film studies class um, for adults and kids. So I had done a little bit of teaching. So I
Right,
had a little bit of experience. But yeah, teaching English, um, it wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was a means to an end because it allowed me to move
right,
abroad and it allowed me to earn money living somewhere and gave me the options. Like if it didn't work out, then I could move somewhere else, which was really important as
right.
it turned out.
Yeah. And what are you writing on? Remember, I asked you, you were still on the microphone telling your story when I asked you, where can I read you now? And you,
Yeah, that was funny.
and your answer was,
Yeah, at the time I was writing about sex toys. Sex toys and sex life, which was that was a really good fun job.
but I guess you're not missing it.
No, I mean it was at that time it was really good fun. But like in terms of I guess professional writing, that wasn't necessarily the niche I wanted to stay in,
Hmm.
you know. So but it was really good fun at the time.
Yeah, yeah. And the answer was epic, indeed. The least expected for me. What's the story is going to look like since the beginning, since you arrived in Bulgaria until now? Because that is what I find fascinating about you. Like you've
Oh,
changed so much in all the good ways, and I really want to find out the motivation behind that and try to motivate other people for this.
mhm.
So how would you describe yourself when I met you and when you were writing about the sex toys, and how would you describe yourself now in terms of body, spirit, and mind?
Well, I think when we first met, I was kind of just at the beginning of what I would consider my journey now. So I started like going to the gym, eating healthier, exercising regularly, and just feeling better in myself. So I think that's when we met. I was just at the beginning of that. Um, so I guess before that, um, I guess at the time when you're living in it, you don't realize that you're a little bit lost, and then you get to a point where like, oh God, like I feel so low, I don't feel good in myself, and you're looking around you, and there's so much toxicity, like in the relationships and your friendships, and just that kind of the world that you suddenly find yourself in, even though at the time you might be enjoying it, but you might be enjoying it a little bit too much. But
Right.
then yeah, I seemed to hit a real low point, and I think it was just before my 38th birthday. Um, and so, yeah, I just found myself in a really low place, and I decided I really need to do something here because I'm on a downward spiral, and it's either I do something now or I don't know what's going to happen. That's how I felt.
Right.
So I kind of I'd made a decision. It was like it felt like now or never. It was
Mm-hmm.
that way, and so I made a promise to myself that I would be fit by 40. So I had 2 years, and yeah, that was kind of it was like a promise to myself
Right.
to do that, um, and yeah, just I think it was realizing that I hadn't been looking after myself. So this was just like this is the best self-care and self-love that I could possibly do for myself. So yeah, that's and then I met you maybe a year after that. Maybe no, maybe
Not
around the same
sure.
time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but when you say toxicity, was there one thing that flipped you over, or one particular thing?
No, I don't think it was one particular thing. I think it was just like over time this had been accumulating over years. So it's not like, oh, it's 6 months. It was like years,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's those kind of things where you don't see happening until like you're at the bottom of the barrel and you're looking up.
Right.
So you don't see yourself lowering, and then you realize like, God, I feel like I'm at the bottom of a of a bucket
Right.
and looking up. And that's how I felt. And yeah, it was, and I knew it was up to me. That's the biggest thing. Like, no one else is going to fix this. Like, I need to do it. I need to do the work. So yeah, that's,
But the toxicity hasn't changed. What has changed actually
I've
in your
removed myself from certain relationships, certain people, and certain circles.
right,
So, and you kind of have to do that because you can't change other people, but you can change yourself and you can change where you are.
right, yeah. So basically, for the body, you started training. For the mind, you started having better boundaries.
Yeah, better boundaries, but also training the body helps the mind as
Right.
well, because you once you start exercising, you get those endorphins, and you just start feeling good. You feel good about yourself, and you feel pleased that you've done something for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and it's those little achievements that keep you going.
One thing that fascinates me about you is, and I heard it now as well. I remember talking about the marathons and how you started, and you told me this. I started like with 10 minutes a day, and I'm like, what? I can never imagine to start like that. It's like so much patience, so much dedication to that, planning, etc. And I'm one of those people that wants to, run 30 minutes straight
Immediately.
away. So now what you're saying is by the I was 38, and by the age of 40 I wanted to be fit, and I was like 2 years plan. Oh my God. Like my plans are for 3 to 6 months tops in terms of gym and achievements.
Yeah.
How how did that came from? Did you always have that in you to know that things take time?
Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I think because I had tried go I had a gym membership for years. And I would go. I did what everybody does. Like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and you go for a week, and then after that it's like, nah.
Yeah.
So it's you have the motivation for 1 week, and then it disappears. And it's like, it's not motivation that's going to get you there. It's discipline, and that's what I learned. It's like, you have to be disciplined. It's like, motivation actually is something that comes later. For me, discipline is the foundation, and motivation is, once you start seeing like little results, that motivates you to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
But motivation's not going to be enough, and it's not. It's, as most people will see, is that they might feel like, yeah, I'm so motivated, I'm going to go, and then you know they
Yeah.
wake up one morning and they go, I feel really tired today, I'm not going to go. I was like, no, discipline. Like, get
Right.
up, go. You don't feel like it, but go. And then I can guarantee that afterwards you'll think, I'm so glad I did that. And
Right.
so it's discipline.
How do you reward yourself?
Sorry.
How do you reward yourself?
I don't know if I've got a reward system as such. Before, when I was not serious about it, I like, oh, I deserve this glass of wine, or I deserve this dessert, and now I've kind of changed my mindset in the way that I I I still have those things, but it's balance. It's not necessarily a reward, or you've done good, so you deserve that. It's like, I deserve those things anyway,
Yeah.
you know? So I think the reward comes from just feeling good.
Yeah.
Like, I feel so much better now than I did 5 years ago. That's the reward for me. Like, I wake up in the morning and I feel good about myself. Not
Right.
even just good about my body, within my body, but good about myself. Like, sorry, I'm hitting the mic. I feel good about myself, and I feel good in myself,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the reward, I think.
Like, what's the difference between then and now feeling good about yourself? Not particularly about the body, but like, what's the thoughts that occupy your thinking in comparison to then? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, about maybe 5, 6 years ago, I probably was drinking too much, and then you would have the hangovers, and you wake up in the morning, and was like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't drank so much. I wish I hadn't said that. Or what did I say? Or you just feel gross. I feel lethargic. I feel tired. I feel just, mm, sad and heavy within your body and heavy within your mind. So now I feel the complete opposite. Like
Right,
I wake up now and thinking, I feel good. You know,
right.
I feel lighter. Just my mood's lighter. I don't feel in pain anymore, whether that's physically, mentally, or emotionally.
So you feel good about yourself in comparison to you feel guilty and somehow, somehow, first of all,
Yeah,
you didn't go to do the training. Second of all, you're full of toxins from alcohol,
yeah,
and you're not really sure what you have done during the
those
period
kind
that
of
you were,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I get that. And what would you say change in terms of your core values? Are they evolved sometimes, somehow?
Um, I think core values for me, I think they've stayed. I think they've stayed the same, but they've manifested in different ways over the years. Like for me, courage is a huge one, and having the courage to step out of your comfort zone. That's always been a big thing for me. Is like moving away from home when to go to university, like you know leaving leaving Glasgow, which I loved the city and I loved my friends there, but I wasn't happy. So having the courage to leave something I love and go in search for something else. So, you know, and even the courage to go to Istanbul, the courage to move to Sofia, and I didn't, both of those places I didn't know anybody,
Yeah.
and the courage to try a new career. So courage is a big one, but it's yeah, that's stayed the same, and I'd still say that. And then I think the other one, and I don't know how to label it as a core value, but the the sense of I don't want to be, and I've never wanted to be one of these people that just talks. I want to be someone that does. So, if you have, oh, I'd really love to do that, then do it. I want to be that person. I don't want to get to the end of my life and go, oh, there are so many things I wanted to do. Well, I want to do those.
Right.
So that's definitely driven me forward and still does.
Let's just put some boundaries in the forward now. So how many marathons per year you're doing and how long they are?
So I've this year I've done Madrid half, so they're half marathons so far.
Okay.
I've done the Madrid half marathon. We did Varna half marathon.
It's May.
It's you.
It's May this year, so
It's
let's.
okay, yeah. Next weekend we're doing Edinburgh half marathon. Then in 3 weeks' time, I'm doing a triathlon, an Olympic distance triathlon, which is the Lionheart Utopia.
And you're doing all three disciplines for the
Yes,
first time.
yes.
Until
Well, no,
now, you are doing the.
I've done a sprint triathlon last year at Pravets, which I came second in my age group.
Wow, I saw that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I should say that I think there were only four in my age group, but still, I'm taking it.
Absolutely.
And so then this triathlon is the first Olympic distance one, which I'm a little bit scared of.
How long is that?
So that's a 1.5 kilometer swim, a 40 kilometer bike ride, and a 10 kilometer run. And it's cross country as well. So I'm a little bit nervous about this one. Um, then after that, I've got a couple of months off, and then I've signed up for the half marathon in September,
Right.
the Lionheart Ultra, but just the half marathon. And then I've got a half marathon in Milan.
Oh my God.
And I might sign up for the Wizz Air half marathon in October, but I haven't done that yet.
Oh my God, what's the pleasure behind that?
Good question. um, Again, it's that kind of reward, the feeling afterwards. There's something really nice about like joining a bunch of people and you're all doing the same thing. Like there's a really nice thing about running with other people.
Right.
And then you get a shiny medal at the end of it. And as an adult, I think that's important. We don't get medals very often.
Yes, that's true.
So that's quite nice. But yeah, the feeling afterwards, that sense of achievement, that I've done something, I've challenged myself and I've achieved something. Yeah, that's really nice.
So how old are you now?
I'm going to be 42.
So for 4 years, you started from zero, basically,
Yeah, yeah, zero.
to start going to the gym, and 4 years later, you're a fitness coach. You are advising also people very knowledgeable about eating, and you're doing all these marathons and even the triathlon when you started only with the running.
Yeah.
Well,
When
this
I
is why she's here, you know.
when I first started running, I kid you not, I could not run for 1 minute without stopping. I couldn't.
That's me, practically. No, I'm doing sports and I'm pretty regular. You know, every morning I'm super dedicated to do something. At the least being yoga at home, but running is like suffer for my thought even.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I would still tell you is I don't enjoy it in the moment. I always say I don't like running. I like stopping running because that's where the good feelings come.
Well,
Yeah,
what like what do you think in your bringings gave you that will for courage that you
mhm.
said, and you know this consistency.
Um, I guess I think coming at it from maybe like the courage angle. Like I grew up in a small town in the north of Northern Ireland. I went to an all girls school. I grew up in a not only a religious family but in a religious community, like the north of Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland has its own issues. Um, and then when I got into my teenage years, I was in a really controlling relationship, and so for me, there was a lot of authority figures and restrictions, and you know, um, people wanting you to conform to their way of life and their way of thinking, and they all had expectations, and for me, how I always felt was like I'm being pushed into a small box that I'm being forced to live in this small box that I don't fit into, and no matter which way I twist and turn, I'm never going to be comfortable in this small box.
Right.
So that's how I felt growing up. So I think I, and you're growing up and those people are your family or they're your community or your friends. And so you have to have courage to say, this isn't what I want. This might be okay for you, but this is not me. So you have to have the courage to step away from that. So I think that's where that comes from. So it was either, for me, it was very much a case of I either accept this and be miserable, or I step away and I do my own thing, and I might hurt some people in the process.
Right.
But I'm gonna hurt those people anyway if I stay and it's a lie.
Yeah.
So that's probably where that comes from.
What would you say is your most important leadership decision in life? Is it moving out of the toxic relationship, which opens up the boundaries of the world for you, or was it the going out from your country more?
Yeah, I think it was from stepping away from that world. Like if I'd stayed in my hometown, I never would have experienced any of the things that I've experienced. Even if I had just decided to have those 2 weeks holiday a year, it's completely different to living abroad and living abroad on your own. And so I think that's probably the biggest decision. Well, and I've made that multiple times, that decision. I've decided to keep moving,
Yeah,
although I seem to have found Sofia and settled here, and it's actually the longest place I've lived since leaving home at
right.
19. So
What is Sophia giving you?
sunshine usually, not this week, but
Except yesterday.
yeah, yeah. Of course, I like the weather and like being outdoors, and it's for me, it's quite relaxed. It's big enough, but not too big. I feel like
Right.
Goldilocks, like it's just right. Yeah.
Because culturally we're so different.
Yes, and yeah, yeah. I would say they are. I mean, there's some similarities. Like in Northern Ireland, it's quite. There's a lot of tradition. Bulgaria, there's a lot of tradition,
Mm-hmm.
um, and those traditions are very important to people. And there is a love of alcohol in both places, and uh, but yeah, sometimes I can listening to my Bulgarian friends, there is. And their complaints about their country and their politicians. Northern Ireland has those, similar issues as well. I mean, I guess it happens everywhere where you get small-minded people. Small-minded people are everywhere,
Yeah.
and you have people that are constantly trying to better their country and things. So it's similar in that regard.
Do you imagine yourself staying here for the rest of your life?
Um,
Like permanently in traveling as your schedule is?
yeah. I mean, I always answer that kind of question of like I never even planned to be here in the first
Yes.
place. So you never really know what might happen, but I've got no plans to leave
Right.
anytime soon. So
And what is what what about the diet regime? I know you're giving very good advices about your food, and your pictures are amazing, with the things that you're cooking, and the way you're telling how easy that was. I'm always like, sure. But I know you started from somewhere. I know you have this Zoe Tim,
oh,
what
Tim
was Tim
Spector.
Spector guy that
Hmm.
you really
I like
like
him, yeah.
his philosophy and the science he works behind the Zoe brand. Tell us more about that journey of yours.
Yeah, so it was kind of a trial and error. Like I love food. I love cooking. Um, it relaxes me. So and I enjoy it. I find it very therapeutic. So when I finish work, I love getting in the kitchen and just starting to experiment. So
Wow.
that's really where it came from. I was experimenting, um, and trying to find healthier choices. So even yeah, just the things that I love to cook, trying to find healthier ways to cook those things. Um, and finding like new ingredients and just go, what on earth can I do with this?
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes it's a case of I open the cupboard and go, right, I've got that. What can I do with those two things? And just, seeing how it goes. Sometimes it works, most times it works out. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but
good.
but also the fridge is filled with much healthier choices than before, I guess.
Yes, yeah. Like for instance, my if I went out at the weekend, the next day I might have a frozen pizza, a bag of crisps, fizzy drink, and some, you know, Haribo or something, and that would be my comfort day. And and you look at that and there's not a vegetable in sight. It's nothing natural. Nothing's been grown. It's all
Yeah.
been created. It's all ultra processed. So now I've cut out. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I'm definitely not, but I've drastically reduced my ultra processed foods and drinks and things like that. So um, I try to have plant-based whole food as much as I possibly can. I'll still eat a little bit of meat and fish and dairy, but those aren't my staples. My staple is vegetables as
Right.
much as possible and variety. So I'll try, this is where the Tim Spector stuff comes in. Like I'll try and get in at least 30 different plants a week. And I keep a little food diary to see how well I've done. And I enjoy doing that. So for
Yeah.
some people, that'd be like, oh God, I can't be bothered. It's like, this is so tedious. But for me, I love a spreadsheet. So I actually
Yes.
have a spreadsheet where I fill in all this stuff. And yeah, so I can see, uh, I like to see how many different plants that I've had a week. And I also like to see the percentage of like veggie, vegan diet that I've had
You're
that
not
week.
talking about fruits.
Oh, it includes everything
Okay.
like any kind of fruit, vegetable, nuts, seeds, anything that grows, basically.
I really want to continue with the food subject, and I will. But before that, something that I always admire you for, keeping the diaries. Now that you're saying that you're loving the spreadsheet, you are the only person in my life I know that for tens of years is keeping diaries,
Yeah.
and I'm always fascinated. Maybe I will ask you this for like fifth or sixth time, I don't know. But what is that giving you? Because I know how important that is. I know how different I am when I'm keeping diary and when I'm not keeping diary. But I just can't. I don't have the discipline, as you would say. What is giving you, and how would you miss it if you stop doing it?
Yeah. I mean, I've kept a diary, not a food diary, just a general diary. I've kept a diary or journal or whatever you want to call it. I've kept one since I was about 12. And I have them all with me in Sofia. I have a stack of notebooks. Um, and I find, yeah, for me, it's very therapeutic, and it's not a case of, oh dear diary,
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's boring stuff, sometimes it's like big stuff that I'm going through, and it helps you work those things out, just to get them out of your head and onto paper. I find it very therapeutic, and it can help you see things and see patterns, and if your patterns in your relationships or your working life, or so it can allow you to self-reflect a lot, and then you can, once, like, knowledge is power, like once you have that information you can begin to change things if need be, or address them in some way. And I think it's, yeah, I think it's really beneficial.
So how does it work for you? You're writing and then you're rereading, and what kind of period? And I don't think you're setting a period, but still, like, what is?
Yeah, I don't actually read them back. It's
Oh,
just a
you don't?
case of,
Yeah.
um when, like, when you're physically writing these things, you're like, oh, I remember I've written this before, or I remember this period, that I realize it helps you be very self-aware.
Right.
And I think that's a very useful tool in life.
Can you share a pattern that you saw through your diaries and how you changed it?
Yeah, definitely. When like in my dating life previously, um, I realized, like, God, I'm dating the same guy in a different form. I'm literally dating the same person. And like once I realized that, I was able to, like, that's not happening ever again. So once I realized that pattern was there,
Yeah.
I was able to put boundaries in place and stop that,
Yeah.
because that was a huge revelation for me. Maybe other people saw that, but I think
Yeah.
it's harder sometimes for the you yourself to see some patterns. Um,
Especially when feelings are involved. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And yeah, once I noticed that, I was able to work that out. Take some time by myself to address those things. Like, why am I looking for that person? Why am I allowing that person in my life over and over again in a different
Yeah.
package? And yeah, so definitely it's been very useful.
And you're becoming much better in recognizing him on the like fifth minute of your talk when you meet.
Yeah. Well, I think when I realized that at the time, luckily I never met another person
Right,
like
that's
that.
really interesting
So,
because when yeah, and that's usually what happens when you change your mindset,
mhm.
you're not attractive to these people anymore, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, because you've set the boundaries and they know that they can't get away with that shit anymore.
Yeah,
And so, yeah. So luckily that I'd say that let's say that ghost of a person because they shape shift
yeah.
into different people. Um, I've managed to banish that like an exorcism. Yeah,
That is really cool, and that's really the main benefit of keeping a diary, and or at least reflecting on your thoughts in your own way,
yeah,
and your days, not only with because I will often catch myself blaming myself for the day only, not looking through the certain happening, let's say, from different perspectives, but rather only blame, which is not helpful at all. So you've learned through, can you say that you've learned through the years to say no? And how did that go? Because you're genuinely a really good person, and I can hardly imagine you, being, let's say, not aggressive, but more of a um, putting boundaries, and not in a healthy way. How did you learn to say no to things, whether it's sugar, whether it's bad relationships, what's the other thing except the diaries and stuff?
I think it came down to again realizing like before I wasn't taking care of myself, not giving myself like the self love or the self respect that I should have. So now it's a case of, making decisions like is this instant gratification, is that going to benefit me? Is this a good decision? So it could be something as small as like cutting out the sugar in my
Yeah,
coffee. It's and but all those little actions, they stack up. It's like, and I get to be good to myself through those little actions. So it's going to the gym is a form of self-respect. It's like I'm respecting my body, I'm respecting my physical health now.
yeah.
So yeah, it's
Do you think you would be able to do that if you were in your hometown with your previous surroundings? What I mean by that is that I would, because while you were talking, I was thinking, loneliness helps a lot in this types of changes, because sometimes if let's say you're in a long term relationships for years, you're doing the same stuff over and over again, sometimes you are unable to see that you need to reflect, let alone doing the actual reflections on your day, and it's much harder to adapt in a very convenient, say, situation um, to the self love, while loneliness is giving something um, like extra, so you can reflect better. Do you feel like that?
um
Was it helpful to you or not?
I don't know if it was yeah, I don't know if it was really loneliness that was a catalyst because I was quite happy with my own company.
Yeah,
So that wasn't necessarily, but I think I know what you mean because sometimes like people can get very comfortable together and or get very comfortable within their own life and not see that maybe they're on a path that's not that healthy for themselves. So they're not going to see that something needs to change,
yeah.
So, but then, yeah, 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 I don't know.
No, I was thinking about that because usually in let's say it's not a loneliness, probably I put it incorrectly, it's the isolation from the well known, the isolation from where you see your mother being the same way all her life, and finding strength to be happy, let's say, and finding ways to be happy. So if you don't isolate, you think that you this is what you find normal, and this is what
Uh-huh.
you in that regards. I was thinking how helpful, because for me it is really helpful to I'm when I'm with friends, when I'm in long distance relationship, we would it would be more the we think.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes even egoistically we think about, uh, in order for him to change I have to change, so I will change in a way so he could change, and it's really messed up. Why, when you're alone, you're really only focused on
Uh-huh.
your well-being, and the perspective is somehow different. This is what I was thinking when
Yeah.
you were talking about
I
it.
think, yeah, it might come back to that thing of, I was beforehand, I was surrounded with people that had a similar lifestyle to
Yeah,
the one I was living, and that's kind of why, I was in it for so long, not realizing I was going down because I was surrounded by people that were doing the exact same thing I was. It was normal. It wasn't
yes,
something that was unhealthy. It was just normal way of life. Whereas, you know, I I was the one maybe that suddenly saw myself in a different light for whatever reason, but I realized again I was like, I'm unhappy here, you know, and but there was a bunch of people around me that were all living the same way, doing the
yeah,
same things, and you know, and that was normal. They wouldn't have looked at me and saw anything different than they saw in themselves.
yeah,
But yeah, so it can be very, very hard if you're in that environment to see it and to make a change out of it.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to the eating, I was thinking while you were talking about, very often we will hear about what's good or not good for us, in terms of listen to your body. But sometimes I find it really difficult to listen to your body. Of course, when I'm bloating and stuff, it's you have to be like, this is something quite obvious. But when you're but there are other symptoms that we have to listen as well. Are you into this, and what is your advice? Because I think it's really important to have this advice exactly from a person that has been through, from the junk to all the 30 fruits and vegetables per week. And
Yeah. Well, for a while, as well as my food diary, I was just making a note of my energy levels, and how I was sleeping, and my mood. Um, so I could see like kind of correlation of like when I eat like this, I feel like this, So, and it's just being aware of those things. And it's not a case of you have to be, you don't have to do what I do and keep a diary for years, like a food diary for years. You don't have to do that, but do it for 3 months and see if you can make a connection of like, I'm eating like this, my sleep's crap, maybe there's a connection, you
yeah,
know, or I eat this, but I still feel really hungry afterwards. I start snacking after I eat this. Okay, I'll maybe change that. I'll eat something else and see if I don't want those snacks at 11, 12 o'clock. So yeah, that's listening to your body isn't a case of, oh, like, how do I feel? It's, keeping a track of that because how are you otherwise how are you going to make any changes you
yeah,
know
yeah. Hmm. Interesting. And what did you find out for yourself, especially for the late night snacking? That's really essential for me.
if I want something sweet like after dinner, um I would either have like a little bit of Greek yogurt and fruit, or sometimes I would buy, I don't want to give a shout out to any commercial place, but you get little individual ice cream things, like little bonbons, little
Okay.
tiny ice cream, and I would just have one of those,
Okay.
and it would like that's my sweet craving done. Or so it's you're not restricting yourself. I don't restricting doesn't work because you end up wanting more of it, or you're really really good all week and then you binge it at the weekend because you just want something, you just want nice, this sweet or comfort food. Like, but if you have a little bit of that, or you just switch them out for like something that's going to scratch that itch but be a slightly healthier option, you're still having the things that you want, but you're doing it in a more balanced way or healthier way. Like,
Right.
so I would have, if I want something sweet, I'll have like dates with peanut butter or
Yeah.
a little bit of dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate, or I'll make like little chocolate brownies but with oats, instead of flour, or just it could be anything like that. But yeah, I think it is lucky for me because I do love cooking and I love experimenting. So
Yeah.
I get enjoyment out of as well. So that's that's helpful for me. So I think for other people there has to be a little bit more forward planning if you don't like cooking, or you don't like meal prep, or you're not good in the kitchen or things like that. It can be harder, but it doesn't have to be so difficult. Like, there's so many. Oh, Instagram is full of like quick 2 ingredient recipes or like quick snack ideas, so it just
Yeah.
takes a little bit of research and a little bit of forward planning. So that also, don't buy the crap when you go to the supermarket. If it's not there, you can't eat it.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. Like, just don't go to the supermarket when you're hungry. And but forward plan, that okay, I get sweet cravings after dinner. Like, okay, well, get something that gives you that sweetness, but in a healthy way. Have an apple. I know that sounds crap, but it's it it is going to signal the same to your brain that because your brain is the one that's wanting the sugar. So give it the sugar, but give it in a healthier way.
My I was reading about the glucose revolution, and I'm following the basically everything that she's saying in that book, and for me, because I'm craving sweet like all the time, and for me it was a revolutionary to read that everything that is sweet actually has the same molecule. So the first thing I thought, and I still remember that moment, the first thing I thought was, so I don't need to eat a fruit. I basically can eat my chocolate or or ice cream, which of course is not accurate. The exactly, but in terms of sugar, it was
But
so.
you have to also remember that sugar is in things that are even savory. So, for example, your crisps that might be salty crisps,
Yes,
but that's flavoring. It's actually sugar that's in there because they want you to eat more. So it's disguised with flavorings, but
right.
it's sugar that's in there because it's you want more. So
At the end of the day, yeah,
yeah,
it's true. What would you say you're based your diet on now, except like to whatever, to the 30 vegetables per week and to the what you have in the fridge. Are you following other rules like eating every 2.5, 3 hours, something
no,
like that? No?
no. I mean, there's so many different diets and people telling you to, oh, you have to do intermittent fasting, you have to do this, you have to do
Exactly.
that. Like, don't overcomplicate things. I think it's, choose food that is mostly not processed or minimally processed. So don't go for the ultra processed stuff. Like, you can have like that once every so often because, it's life,
Yeah.
but if you cut out the ultra processed crap as much as possible, stick to homegrown, you know, stuff that grows on trees or in fields, you're pretty good,
Yeah.
and keep, if you want to keep eating meat, fine, but keep it to a minimum. Keep meat, dairy, and fish to a minimum. You can still have it, but
Why?
um, well, one, for the planet, and two, because there's hormones in like your dairy and your meat, um, and there's still a lot of fat, and it's, your cholesterol. There's so many, like,
Right.
but I don't want to, I'm not going to tell people, it's like, stop eating meat. I still eat meat. I just eat it every so often. It's like I don't cook with it. That's how I cut it down.
Yeah.
But if I go out to a restaurant, I might have a nice piece of steak, but that's a treat.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's really hard for me with meat, and I really want and I think a lot of people suffer from that because, you know, especially in Bulgaria, we don't really, I don't think we really get that that thing because we still have access to home grown animals and good meat that we can eat, etc. But so if you had that, if say you know that the meat is really good, would you still have it? Just trying to understand the
I'm trying not to, because the more I read about animal welfare, and not just the welfare, but so it's not necessarily just about how the animals are kept, but how they feel. So I'm starting to go down that route,
that
and
kosher road.
yeah, and the more that I read and the more that I see, the more I try not to. So, but
How
that's
do you
that's a
how do
personal.
you maintain your protein
Oh, there's so
intake?
much protein in tofu, lentils, and beans, and in other vegetables. It might not be what you call complete protein, but you can easily get your complete profile, but just by combining those. And there's most people are taking protein powders these days anyway, and
Yeah,
so yeah, I don't feel like I'm undernourished or
right.
anything like that. So, and there's so many, like, I'm not fully vegan, but there's so many vegan athletes out there that it's a myth now that you can't get enough protein. Actually, the general population has almost too much protein,
Mm-hmm.
according to Tim Spector.
All right.
So there's been a lot of studies. I'm just repeating what
Oh,
what I've
okay.
read. But yeah, for athletes, I think the general rule is like, or for general people, they say like zero point 0.8 or is it 1 gram of protein per kilogram of your
Yeah.
of your weight. And if you're an athlete or you're working out, then you can higher, you can increase that, but it's actually not necessary, because if you increase your protein too much, it's not like your body stores it. It actually gets reverted to fat. So if you have too much protein and you're not using it, or you're not using it to build muscle, you're actually adding to your fat stores,
Okay.
which I thought was really interesting. I'd never read this before, but I think this is in recent studies, and I can find them and I can send them to you, and you can
Yeah.
put the links under the podcast.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be really interesting. Okay, and yeah. That explains a lot about how I gained weight with the lamb during Easter. I was really focused on protein, but yeah, I was not that focused because I had this nerve stick on my back, so I couldn't really do
Ah.
exercises. I was only doing yoga, so not that much calories to lose, but a lot of calories and proteins to eat. So yeah, the result is. Um, so I love the fact that you are not against and not into really some religious cult of eating this way and that way and but if you have a client that really um, insist on not changing the intake of meat they want, how would you approach that?
Well, all you can do is, you know, you can advise, but at the end of the day, the, it's up to them, you know. And if they don't want to change certain things, you can't force someone. All you can do is like say, well, here from my position, here's what I think, and here's I can give you a lot of studies and examples and research. And if they don't want to accept it, then they don't want to accept it.
Right.
And and I mean, there are people that will still progress and still eat, you know, whatever they want to eat, whether that's meat or not. Um, but it's not. I think there's more to it than just, you know, health and fitness is sometimes two different things. You know, so you can reach your fitness goals, but are you reaching your health goals? You know, so there's those two different things, and it might not show up in their day to day, but it might show up 20 years later with their cholesterol, for example.
Yeah,
So it's really hard to battle that, but you know, you can only do what you can do. It's up to, that's the thing with being a personal trainer or being a, you know, a consultant to somebody. There's only so much that you can do. They have to come and meet you.
exactly. Yeah,
So, you know, they're like your success as a consultant or a trainer is determined by someone else's dedication
and discipline.
and
Yeah,
discipline and their effort. So you could put in 100%, but if they only put in 10%, you're not getting the success because they're not doing the work. So it's quite hard.
yeah, it is indeed,
And
and
you'll know that from being a leadership
yes,
coach. Like you're doing the same. Like you might be given 100%, but if that person isn't meeting you, isn't given the same, then you're not getting the
yeah.
results.
Actually, I have a rule about that because being a leadership coach is really about following a certain goal. And once we clear the goal, and once we agreed on certain kind of homework and stuff, and after the third time, somebody comes unprepared, I'm just off. Really, because that's my way to show that how important, first of all, discipline is, how important being responsible for your own self is,
Mm-hmm.
but also there are a lot of clients that are much more involved, and I'm taking the time off from them
Mm-hmm.
to be with that one client that would do anything rather than just talking
Yeah.
and not keeping the promises. So that was a hard decision to take, but I have a couple of cases like that I
Mm-hmm.
just refuse.
Yeah, you've got to be ruthless.
Well, I have, yeah, I really have to. Well, that's the way I feel it, because it really makes no sense to me,
Mm-hmm.
or at least say, I thought about, I gave it if there was not a thought process through, like I thought about it, I have different, I changed a little bit my goal because I reflected on our conversation, and therefore I changed the task a little bit. That's another thing. But if you are not, like, if you're completely not, I didn't have the time, and at the same time you had the time to do all the toxic things that you want to get rid of, so it's not really where we're
Yeah.
heading
This
to.
is this is a big thing of people saying like, "Oh, I don't have time to go to the gym." I have an issue with that, because and I know, you know, if you've got a family, if you've got kids, that can be really really difficult. But if you don't take the time for yourself, you're also taking it away from your family, because if you want to go to if you're miserable in your life right now, that's going to be affecting your family. Whereas if you take the time to work on yourself, you're going to show up as an even better person and a better role model for your family.
Yeah,
So, and I think that's much more important. And if you better your health and your fitness, you're going to be around for a hell of a lot longer to be able to enjoy, you know, those things. You know, if you've got kids, if they have kids, you want to be able to play with your grandkids. You want to be able to be on the floor and get up and down easily. You want to not be a burden on your family. Those are the things that you have to work on now. So, and it's about making yourself a priority as well. And I think That's a big thing.
Yeah. How did you differentiate that with selfishness? Where is the fine line?
Um, I think selfishness, yeah, that comes when if putting yourself first is hurting someone else, and then making yourself a priority is, you know, you're allowing yourself to show up as a better person for those around you. Yeah. But it being being selfish is sometimes what it is the perception of someone else in your life. If they're, so they might be the selfish one, but because you're putting yourself as a priority for a change, they might see that as selfishness. So it's
Mhm.
perception.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you find the balance for yourself between those two?
Um, well, I'm quite lucky because I'm in a relationship with someone who really likes going to the gym and working out.
Yeah.
So we do those things together. So I'm lucky in the sense of when I'm choosing myself, I'm also choosing to be with them.
Yeah.
Because me putting my health first means that I can keep up with them.
Right.
So I'm lucky in that regard. But I do know, I've worked with some people and talked with some people, their partner might not see, oh, like, oh, why do you feel the need to go to the gym? Why are you doing that? You're fine the way you are. And it's like they might be fine the way they are. They're not saying that you have to, it's not a case of you have to be a certain size or a certain weight or look a certain way, but that person wants to change their life to feel a certain way, and that's important. So it's it's really hard for people who don't have that person in their life to support them.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of why I wanted to get into personal training and coaching, because I'm lucky I have that person in my life that is able to go, yeah, go, you keep doing it, you're doing great. So I have a cheerleader. Loads of people don't have that cheerleader, and they really struggle because they either they those there are times when your motivation is low and your discipline will might fade a little bit, and you do need someone around you going, keep going, you can do it, just keep going. So I want to be that person for those people.
Right. Right. And I'm in that situations about going to the gym. I'm really good in renegotiating with myself because it's really hard with the dog and stuff. Although I'm aiming to wake up every morning at 5:30 so I can do all those things, but I know that I don't feel comfortable in going out to the gym, and I realize that, so I'm doing just the exercises from home. And even if I negotiated to myself to train in the evening, I just keep it flexible. I can train at home, and I have the program with my fitness instructor for home workout, and it's pretty good. And it's 1 hour, and it's in front of the TV. It's in the convenience of my home. So, and recently, because I've gained some weight, I'm even putting the heat on so I can sweat even more, which I can't do in the gym. So it's really in the convenience of my home and in the convenience of all my surroundings and my dog, if you wish, but still just doing it.
That's the thing, like if you're disciplined enough to do that at home, whereas I know even myself included, when I'm at home, that's my relaxation place.
Yeah,
So it's very, very, I mean, I still do the odd home workout. If I don't have the time to get to the gym, I'll do something at home. But for some people, that's where the distractions are. That's where the kids are. That's where the TV is. It's where the fridge is.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
there's loads of distractions and temptations. And so sometimes it's good just to build that. For some people, it's necessary to take themselves out of that environment. It's
right.
like it's like work from home. Some people work better in the office. Some people can work at home and they can concentrate. So it's
Yeah,
different people can do different things, but I think sometimes it's good to have a dedicated place like this. I go to the gym this is what I do, and that's where I go to work out. And when I'm there, I'm concentrating. And when I'm at home, I chill. But if you can do it at home, then if it's easier, if it's convenient, and if it means you can do it, some people live too far away from the gym. I always say, like, find a gym that's close to home, make it
Exactly.
easy, do the
Essential.
path of least resistance.
Yes, yes.
Like, I still do this now where if I want to go to the gym it opens at 6:30 in the morning. If I want to be there at 6:30, I prep my bag the night before so that, I can get up at 6, I can feed the cat, do whatever, get up and get out and be at the gym for 6:30. But I prep everything the night before. So I make it easy for myself.
Yes.
So it has to be the path of least resistance.
Yes, like for a person that you really love, as you said, you would prepare their bag, you would do everything so they can feel the convenience and love of.
There's no excuse.
Yes, and no excuse, and enjoyment at the same time,
Yeah.
from what they're doing. That's actually the truth. And I was wondering, groups, how do you approach your trainings? Like, because what I would do for years. So I'm windsurfing since 2010, I think, and for years, what I would do, starting on spring, to train for my back and everything I need for the windsurf, and then starting after the summer, I will have 1 or 2 months like full break, and then I will start training for the snowboarding. So legs, I would never, and I would always swim. So my father is always like, "Your back is becoming huge, not like a lady," because I never thought about those things. I'm like, my back, I need it for the surfing. I'm doing my back, which was not really a good approach, I think. How do you approach this?
Well, for myself at the moment, because I've been doing a lot of running and a lot of cardio, so yeah, for it's a lot to fit in.
Right.
Um, but this year I concentrated a lot on the running because last year I did 2 marathons and half marathons, and I was in a lot of pain. So in my groin area and my hip, it was awful. And I went to an osteopath afterwards and got some exercises and got some therapy. And I vowed to myself, I will not feel like that again. So I hadn't that time last year. I hadn't done enough run training,
Okay.
and I wasn't doing enough stretching before and afterwards. So this year I really concentrated on that, and so far I've had no pain whatsoever. So hopefully I will continue in that way. Um, and I'm also trying to fit in the cycling and the swimming because I've got the triathlon coming up. But I know that, and I've tried to also try and fit in some weights as well, resistance training, because it helps just like strengthen your knees and all of that, and your glutes are one of the biggest muscles and it supports you and your core. So I've been trying, but it's a lot and it's really, really hard to fit that in. So I feel like I'm not doing enough in anything, but there's a really good t-shirt that I've seen that I want to get that says I do triathlon to suck at three sports. And that's so true because it's so hard to fit in all of them. So um but I afterwards, after the triathlon, I really want to get back into resistance training because it just makes me feel really strong, and I love that. And I've missed it. Um, so yeah, I switch it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep like, and it keeps it interesting as well.
Yeah.
You find something that you love to do, and then it doesn't feel like you're, exercising. It just feels like you're having fun.
Right, right. This is what happened. My fun was with this nerve that how do you call that in English when you,
Pinched nerve. Uh-huh.
yeah, when you pinch the nerve. So basically, Victoria Spasova, she gave me this regime. I have my exercises and everything. And then one day I was in the gym, was like so many interesting things that I'm not using here. I will do something free today. Not good idea because I doubled my
Ah,
weights. I did some turnings that were not appropriate, not slow enough. So this is how it happened. So
yeah.
I must say, from my example and non professional as Ruby, just be careful, really, because
Oh
it can
yeah,
stop you.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the free training, and this is why I wanted to go deeper into the exercises and how if you say you have a coachee that is not aiming for any sports to be better in any sport, being windsurfing or running or things like that. I just want to have a good body. How would you approach to the program of an exercises of the
I
exercise?
mean, there's different ways, like, but you could do, depending on how many days that they can dedicate, you could do, an upper lower body split, or you could do it
Full body.
like a full body. I like to do if I like to do a full body because if you're doing an upper and lower, but they can maybe only get to the gym twice a week. If they do an upper, then it's like so many days until they're doing the upper body again. Whereas if you do a full body, then they're hitting that twice.
Right.
So you're able to build upon you be able to build the muscle. Um, so that's what I like to do, but it depends. It just depends on how often they can go to the gym, and then you can work it out. You can do there's different ways you can do it in a push pull
Yeah.
kind of exercise split. Say you can do an upper body and lower body. Um, yeah, there's lots of different ways you can do. Put in some hit like high intensity training, um, but keep that short. And I think there's a tendency, especially for women, to focus on cardio to lose weight, which is not that doesn't work. Cardio is great for your cardiovascular system, and like the clues in the title, and it's great for your lungs, and yes, you may lose some weight in the beginning, but if you want to lose weight, it's weight training. You're building the muscle because you're basically building the engine that burns the fat and the calories. So you're not going to become Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like some people are like scared that they're going to bulk up and look really
Yeah.
manly. You're not, because you don't have the testosterone to do that, or the levels of testosterone to do that. So yeah, so weight training is
When you say weight training, though, how do you think about? Because that's the mistake I make. I would usually do for the arms like 5 to 7 kilos or something like that, and all of a sudden I went with 10 kilos doing the turning the back. How do you call that? I don't know. And the turning with like doubling the kilos, so which was obviously a very stupid decision of mine. But how would you approach
it's
the?
yeah, do it in slower, like increasing the load, like progressive load, like just but increase it slowly. You know, um, go into the gym and say you're doing bicep curl,
Yeah,
for instance, and you start with a 2.5,
right.
and you can do 3 sets of 15. What you want to do is when you're getting to, say, you're doing a set of 15, you want to get to the point where you're really struggling, like
Okay.
on the last couple of reps. And that's where you start to break down the muscle, and when you rest, it starts to build up. So then, if you're getting to the 15, you're like, I got to 15, no problem, for each 3 sets. That's when you need to up the weight.
Okay. Okay.
So then you'll go to whether you want to go to a 3 or a 4 or a 5. So try it with the three first. If you can get to 15, again, no problem. Okay, go up. But you basically want to be getting to the point where your last 2-3 reps are the struggle. Like it's called going to failure.
Right.
So that's where you want to be hitting.
What would be the is there any limit that you would put for women in terms of weights?
No,
No.
whatever you can handle.
Right.
Yeah. But obviously, uh, like people are, you should build it up slowly, but whatever you can lift, lift.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some like amazing, like I follow a Facebook page, the female athlete, and there's some amazing uh, inspirational stories on there. Yeah, world champions and whatnot. So yeah, I would recommend it. I'll maybe
Right.
drop the link to that
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you as
that would
well.
be cool. That would be cool because we really need more inspirations. And so you said about the boyfriend. So how come? Yeah, because there's something like which is the first, the egg or the hen? You
Chicken.
know, I have to be honest with you. I really sometimes I think like for different people, not only for you. I was like, so they're sporting together, and that makes it really easy for her now. So he is driving her, but with you, it sounds like it was more you and changing and then finding the right person.
Yeah.
How how did that work?
Yeah, that was basically so I as I say, just before I turned 38, I basically decided now or never, I'm doing this. And I think I went to around the same time, um I went to Zizopol for a break. And I think this was just before just around my birthday. And I met a friend there, and I remember saying to him, there's a change coming. I've already made this decisions. Like when I get back to Sofia, this is what's happening, and I'm gonna stick at this. But I said to him, like, there's a change coming, and I don't know what it is, but I know that there's a change coming. And and he said, "Oh, do you think that you'll leave Sofia?" And I was like, "No, I don't think it's that. I don't know what it is, but I know that there's a change coming." And obviously I'm thinking as well, I'm going to change, I'm going to change my life, blah 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 blah. But then, so this, I think this was around June, July. And so this is when I started going to the gym and started looking at my diet and making the changes. I've already set in boundaries with places and people, and so I'm in the process. And then I met my boyfriend at the same time, and then I met him in August. So this was all very
Right, yeah.
early in my process, but yeah, just so happened that he's really into fitness and enjoys running and enjoys doing different things, trying different things. Like, is always up for like, oh, you want to go wakeboarding? Yeah, let's do that. He's like,
Yeah,
it's activities and not just. And one of the things that I really like about him is like he'll say, he'll talk about things and do them. And that's, as we talked about, that's one of my core values for myself. Is like, I don't want to just talk, I want to do. And he's very much a doer as well. And that's important for me because I think in previous relationships, I've had people that can talk the talk, but they don't do anything. It's
yeah,
actions speak louder than words. So yeah. So I am really lucky that, and he was very supportive of that as well. I told him all about where, I had come from and my lifestyle before, and how I'm changing it and how I'm looking to change it and what I want to do. So he was really supportive in that, and so yeah, I've been really, really lucky.
yeah. You see, this is the perfect example of for what every psychologist is actually talking. If you wanted to change your surroundings, change yourself, and this is what you
Hmm.
actually did when you were lying to yourself about. mm, Changing your life in a better, in a healthier state, you were being lied by.
Hmm.
This is what you were attracting. Once you got serious into your responsibility for yourself,
Yeah.
you immediately attracted to that kind of person, and
Yeah.
that's like the most inspirational part of your story for me personally. And seeing you how you're combining this in life currently. So currently, are you writing?
Well, writing, I'm a copywriter by day,
Yeah.
but writing for myself, not at the moment. But, you know, I've always toyed with this idea of writing some sort of memoir or something, like in terms of like short stories or something, because I feel like I've lived 20 different lives.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have that kind of, that's always a thought in the back of my mind. And so who knows, that might pop up at some point. But
I would be really happy. I love reading you.
thanks.
So, yeah, I hope so. I hope that you come up to this decision and really feeling it at some point, so words can pour up out from you in a beautiful way. And so you're right. You're writing. You're a copywriter. You're doing this thing, and what I saw is another passion of you, new passion of you. I know you like both techno and sports, and you managed to combine them
Yeah.
somehow. How?
So I had this idea for a long time now, and it's just recently been put into fruition, which is techno fitness. So it's basically just leading a fitness class, kind of functional training, a little bit of HIIT. It's a 30-minute session, but it's set to a techno playlist. So it's not choreographed. It's just leading a fitness class really. But I create a new playlist for each week,
Right.
and people can download the playlist afterwards.
Okay. So it's only 30 minutes?
Yeah, for HIIT training, keep it 30 minutes because you don't need to do a HIIT session longer than that. It's
Okay.
high intensity, so
Yeah.
it's short, and then you still burn fat afterwards. But if you do HIIT for too long, then it raises your stress levels, which slows fat burn. So you want to do it short and fast,
Okay.
high
And how long
intensity.
you're doing your gym in the mornings?
If I'm doing weights, I try, depending on the time, it's usually about 45, 50 minutes, an hour, thereabouts, just to try and fit it in.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, you don't really need to do much longer than that. I know some people spend 2 hours in the gym,
Yeah.
but if you're doing, um, just to go off track, but if you're doing to failure, like I mentioned, you should be taking a rest in between
Yeah.
sets. So, and that rest might be 1 minute to 3 minutes. So, if you're doing that, then yes, you might spend much longer in the gym. But if I'm trying to get it in before work, then I might do supersets, which means I'll target one muscle group, take a shorter rest, and then target a different muscle group. So, and then do that circuit so that I'm not using the same muscles. I let them rest and I can move on to something else.
Right, that's really helpful actually, because I do have these settled for me. I have the exercises, but now that you're talking about, I'm giving. This is why I have this super series or whatever. I'm now really watching them from that side. I have everything so perfectly done for me that I'm just following the. Now I'm this, now I'm this, and that's it. So, do you think that the approach of 15 time doing 15 times something or doing this for 45 seconds is has any difference, or is it about some kind of trends?
You can, I mean, some people say do to 12 or do to
Is
13 or do to 15. It doesn't really matter as long as your last couple of reps are to failure.
right,
That's what you want to get to.
right,
So if you want to do 12 reps, just make sure your last two or three are to almost to failure. And then, but if you, yeah, some people do 15. It just depends.
right.
Yeah.
No, because I've seen it during the recent years. Let's say, I found out about this short before COVID, and I was like, is this what is the science behind that? Now we're doing 45 seconds now. Now we're not even repeating the things for counting them, and I was wondering if there's any science behind it.
I'm sure there may be
Right.
some places will do this exercise for 45 seconds or do this exercise for a minute, but it might be a case of It's called AMRAP, which is as many reps as possible
Mm-hmm.
within a time frame. So if they say 45 seconds or they say a minute,
Right.
so
Okay.
they might say as many reps as possible. So it's
So that's
AMRAP.
the thing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. I got it now.
So it's just a slightly different, and that's sometimes for more power exercises, sometimes.
And who's your inspiration? Do you have somebody or something that really inspired you to go that way?
Um, not in the beginning. I think my inspiration was more just feel better. But as I've like got more into it and I start reading people's stories, and there was one book that I read by Rich Roll, who's he was an ultra triathlete. So his book called Finding Ultra is amazing. It was so inspirational.
Okay.
So I read that maybe a couple of years ago now. But so he was a he went to university. He was a swimmer, and he went to university and found alcohol basically,
Okay.
and he was heading towards Olympic level, but alcohol took him out of that lifestyle, and he started partying more. He trained as a lawyer, and even during his life as a lawyer, he was drinking. He was getting his license DUI, um, his license removed or something, and so he made the decision to stop drinking, but he replaced the alcohol with junk food. So he obviously has an addictive personality. So he was addicted to junk food, and then I think it was before his 40th birthday, he was going up the stairs and realized he was really out of breath. And again, then he decided that I need to get fit. I need to change my life. But because of his addictive personality, it's not a, oh, I'll just go to the gym. He's like, I'm going to become an ultra marathon.
Yeah.
So, like an ultra triathlete. And he went fully vegan immediately, got a trainer. But his story is really amazing. And it's, the way he tells it's really good. And so I read that book and I listen. He's got a great podcast as well. It has like loads of different inspirational people on there as well. So there's like lots of different athletes and
Oh, you can share that with us.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
definitely pop that across to you as well. So yeah, that's definitely someone that I would recommend looking into. But I was thinking this actually, like when I was growing up, I wasn't really interested in sports at all, and I didn't have there was no one in my life either that was into sports.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have that. I didn't have any role models that were, like, especially women. Like there was, I didn't know anybody. Like in my upbringing and lifestyle and corner of the world, everything was church based. You know, it wasn't athletes, it was religion. And
Right.
if you're not into that, then like you're kind of left on your own. So yeah, so now I'm doing more, I think, research into who are the inspirational sports people that I can relate to,
Right.
you know. So it might not be an Olympian, but like someone who's, you know, a normal person but doing great things. I find those stories really, really inspirational.
Right. Can people find you?
Instagram, I have a personal trainer page on there. And my personal page has probably got more food on there than anything. But yeah, I post across both of them, and I mean my personal page is kind of it's public, so I post on both of those. So yeah, that's probably
Which
the
are
best
they?
way. Ruby Fit for Life. So number 4, Ruby
Okay.
Fit for Life.
Okay. I will put that down. And yeah, what is when can people what should people aim in order to contact you? How is the best way to approach you? you know?
Yeah, just send me a DM on Instagram. So at the moment, what I'm working towards is not necessarily a personal trainer program. So
Right.
I mean, I can do that if that's what the person wants, but what I'm working towards now is more accountability coaching
Okay.
in terms of fitness and health, because I found that people kind of know what to do in the gym, or there's so many programs on, or there's so many regimes that they can follow, apps that they can follow. It's on YouTube. Tells you what kind of exercises to do, and I can of course help with that. But I find what people really need the help with is the finding the discipline and creating the habits. So I've kind of structured a program that can help people do that. So it's not about what you do in the gym, but it's getting to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about getting to the gym. The gym might be at 1 hour out of your day. What do you do with the other 23 hours? Those are important. It's like you can't out train a bad diet. And if your lifestyle is, you know, completely removed from your goals, you're not going to reach your goals. So it's a lifestyle change. And that I think that's really daunting for people. People say, oh, change your body and your body shape in 8 weeks. You might be able to do that, but what happens at the end of those 8 weeks? Do you go straight back to the lifestyle because you haven't set the habits in place? And that's what's really important. It's not about, changing your dress size or changing the numbers on the scale. It's changing your life so that you can continue to have the life that you want, or the body that you want, or the mindset that you want. So I think that's what people need help with, and that can't really that's harder to do in 8 weeks. you can set people up. You can set people up. And so, what I want to do is to help people look at their behavior and their mindset and the things that are maybe self sabotaging. So, you might be able to stick at something, a diet for 8 weeks, but 8 weeks out of the rest of your life, that's nothing. So, it's about changing your life. And that's hard for some people to do on their own, or they don't know where to start. So,
Yeah.
that's one I want to help with. And it's about putting boundaries in place and breaking down bad habits and building up new ones. And that's what I think people need help with.
Yeah, that's true. And a really thoughtful mission of yours to have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Job dot.